Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Salty Aaron Show, or a pinch of salt. I don't know, Boris. I just can't figure out what to do with the name, but I already have the motto. We're just talking, man.
We're going to figure it out together because I have ideas.
And I, of course, am never alone. I am always with one other person who is sitting on the opposite side of me. I was trying to get that right because, you know, sometimes in post-production, I can edit everything out. That's the wonderful thing. And Boris said he wanted this episode cut up a little bit, so...
Only if I don't look good in it. I'm being brutally honest.
Okay. Boris, full name, and most of these people already know why they're listening to this.
Boris Douglas Garbe. But here, let me tell you about my name. So when I came to this country in 1979, I didn't go by Boris. Wait, no, that's not true. I did go by Boris, and I got beaten up for it. So by the time I went to college, I started using my middle name, Douglas. And for about 20 years after that, I went with Douglas. But when I entered the art world, I decided to go back with Boris because I needed unique, one of a kind. And I am the only Boris Garbe in the United States. You Google me, I come up. It's me, no one else.
That's funny because my name is a strange oddity to the American country. Well, I sound too stoic right now. I'm going to bring it back down to normal 90 levels shock jock. I'm just kidding.
Are you the only Aaron Saudargas?
I am the only Saudargas in the United States. My family bloodline, however, is not a Saudargas bloodline, or I'm not their bloodline. I'm adopted. Just getting that right out of the way first. And the next thing I wanted to tell you is Saudargas, the only other Saudargases in the world of any notoriety, is like the former prime minister of Norway or Sweden.
In German, it's Saudargas. You know that, right? I mean, you're pronouncing it American.
I've been conditioned. I'm Irish and they're Swedish. I mean,
own it.
Yesterday, I got to hear someone on mic speak Mandarin. Do you speak any other languages?
I speak German, obviously. I speak Spanish. I lived in Nicaragua 10 years. English is my foreign language, and I learned sign language.
Did you learn, well, because you grew up in Germany, so...
Until the age of 5.
Until the age of 5. But you were already conversing in German, you know what I mean, as your like young development and such. So German is standard. Do you read in German, or do you read in English, or do you read in Spanish?
My poor mother. I only like to read in English.
Really?
I can read in German. I can read in Spanish. It's just harder. I love English. I love this country, by the way. Yeah. I love your country more than any other country I've lived in.
Now, are you green carded, or are you H-2B visa, or whatever they would call it? What is the current standing of your...
I have a working visa.
Nice.
As opposed to a green card.
Gotcha. So it's for a really extended amount of time. Super. That was as political as I was going to get. I just want to get that out of there. Boris, you are a fascinating creature, and we are about to divulge into the world of Boris. We have known each other a very short amount of time, and a lot of information has been exchanged. Now, I want to start with, how did you go from living in Germany for 5 years? What caused you to leave Germany? Let's start there.
My parents. Come on.
Was it a particular moment in history because you're a little bit older? Was it a crisis? Was it any of that kind of thing? And where did you go?
I'm not that much older, but okay.
You were around for Vietnam, all right?
I'm 53, for God's sakes. I mean,
see, this is that insulting humor that I don't intend.
So my father was an architect in Germany, and he got the opportunity to work for architectural firm in Nicaragua, and this was great. He probably would have never left Germany. He was middle class, and so him and his young wife and young son get a chance to go to another country. So it was Nicaragua, and he did, and we lived there for 10 years, and then there was a revolution in 1979, and we had to escape. So instead of going back to Germany, he wanted to come here to the United States, and we've been here since 1979 in Winter Park, Florida.
Wow, 79.
Mm-hmm.
That's
40 years.
40 years. So you were
older than you are, right?
Oh, yeah. Not by... carry the one,
yeah. What are you, 37?
35.
35. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Not that it really matters all that much. And because the perspective and how things are after you're 30, you can talk to anyone. Except for like senior citizens at Denny's. That's where the age gap, I think, is for friend zones.
No, but you're married and you have a kid.
That's
and,
true.
I mean, that adds a lot of. See, I matured psychological at 37 psychologically because that's when I got my ass sober. I was a hot train wreck all the way up to 37, and then my life changed because I stopped drinking. And
Right.
I have to tell you, like a lot of people that you'll meet, I feel like a young child. My body has deceived me. It's grown up around me. I don't always recognize who I see in the mirror, but I'm still I'm a young guy inside here.
I noticed that too, as you've known, we've talked outside of off mic about recovery and things like that. One of the things is I did, after almost a year now, get that youthful rebellion angst thing back. And I'm so happy that I did, because when I left the planet, when I was drinking as much, was about 18. And now that I'm about, I would say, I'm coming on to 36 this next year. So at 35, I have more spirit, more spunk, and more ability to fight the quote unquote man, because that's where my mental state is. Because what I've heard in scientific studies is basically the moment you start drinking into like heavy, where your brain doesn't develop as you go. So now you're at the same kind of psychological level. So now I'm that 18-year-old kid again. I'm the one sticking his fist in the air and still listening to Rage Against the Machine. So I understand that coming back to you, that youthful bounce, and that little extra spurt in your step.
I looked young for a long, long time. In my mid-30s, I looked like I was in my early 20s. And then it's going to catch up with you because you're very young looking. It's going to... Within a period of 2 years, I aged tremendously.
Is it post recovery you're talking about?
After, yeah, the aging really got me around the age of 43.
Okay.
I mean,
I got like 8 good years left before everything turns to shit, and I turn into an Asian woman, start shrinking.
That's an interesting comment you made.
Yes, I'm married to a Japanese woman. Everybody knows I got a yellow fetish, so let's just get out of that.
Oh my God.
I told you when you came on this show, you thought you were going to be the feisty, sassy one.
I never said that.
You said that in the first cut.
I said I was going to try to take it away from you, and I will because I'm good at it, but no, I wasn't.
Okay. All right. I guess the Asian comment just completely threw you off.
Well, let's talk about that. Are you not ever nervous and scared that a comment like that might come back and haunt you, or do you welcome it?
Any business is show business.
Yeah, but that's changing as we talk. People are being, what is the word, silence? Like, there's a term now. If a celebrity says something stupid, they're asked to step off the stage or something like that, To
certain extremes, it would be understandable, but knowing where I started, knowing that I am the same person, I'm just as raw. If you've known me in the course of a month, you would understand that my humor is always dark. I am one of the darkest comedians in the Orlando community, but I do it with such exuberance that people pay note and pay attention. And I originally, back in my early 20s, was a race comic. It was a different time back then. I understand, just as coming out at a certain time or being presented in many different issues. That's really weird. I've never had that happen. You're hearing it too?
It's gone now, yeah.
We're going to go ahead and take a very short break just to see if this is a fixable problem. Random moment. Everything sounds clear to you now, Boris?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm throwing those away and burning them later.
No.
That's how I do with all my equipment. When I find one thing wrong, it's got to be...
Do you donate your equipment to other people who need podcasting? There are a lot of poor, hungry
porn shops are also very helpful as well when they're
with money, right?
I like currency. I've been in this long enough. If we're not talking money, we're not talking.
Got it.
That's the wonderful joke. We were actually discussing kind of my early styles of comedy, which were a lot more open and acceptable. So I was able to make a few jokes about Jewish people because at that time it was acceptable to say pretty much anything about any. None of these little ones that you hear proposed on like playgrounds and stuff. Like the old ones that made everybody feel like shit. You know which ones I'm talking about? Like ashtray joke. Carrying on, moving past that. what I would do is I lived a very colorful life. So every one of my friends was always, I was the white guy in the black group. I grew up in less than favorable places. So I don't know. It gave me that if I wasn't the new age Eminem. So I didn't have that much of the black card, but I could play it in doing comedy because a lot of my audiences were predominantly black when I was working. So I would make fun of white people as much as I would make fun of black people, and so on and so forth.
So I want to interrupt you because, I've interviewed Anwar Superstar or Anwar Prescott, the brother of Mos Def, and we've had conversations like this. Mm-hmm. And he has informed me that the conversation has changed.
Yes, I understand that now.
That a lot of the things that you just said, the average black person would be uncomfortable hearing from a white man.
That's understandable. And at this point in my career, though, you also got to understand that I've evolved and I've grown. And let's go back to a very prime example. One of the biggest movie stars in the world, Kevin Hart. Tiny Kevin Hart. Basically, whether you like him or not, he made some comments on Twitter years ago about being gay, but he was like his son being gay or something around.
He would beat his son or something. Right?
He would
kill his son.
Or disappear or something like that. But those were 8 years ago in the prime of when he was learning how to use social media, and there wasn't the conversation that is being had right now. To an extent, I understand that certain things need to be looked back and learn where errors were made and things that were. We just legalized gay marriage. We're still within the same decade. I mean, that conversation wouldn't have been had in the 2000s.
Let me tell you how I feel about it.
Okay.
I believe in free speech 100%.
Exactly.
And the people who listen to this podcast, they know that two grown people are going to talk about things. But I also believe that in a podcast such as yourself, and I didn't come onto this until I talked to you, because I'm beginning to understand I need to pre-interview the people I talk to at this point. I'm sure you've experienced it too.
Right, yes, I have.
mean, not just as an interviewer, but as a guest. Because I've been on some programs that I have to say I don't list because they've been a waste of my time.
Right.
And with you, I immediately, and take this, please take this to correct, but you're brilliant. You're a great conversationalist. And I was like, okay, because I love the give and take. When I have somebody in front of me like you, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to take this baby away from you. And it's delicious. It's a nice dance, when it's two that know the moves. A lot of the time, you have a guest on that's terrified, that doesn't know what to do, that answers with yes and no.
Exactly. I was just about to say that where there's the yes and is the cat yellow. There's always the extremely short answer that, we're really not learning anything. We're just passing time.
Right.
And that's not the case here.
And when this is done well, and I think you and I will do this very well, it's not about power, but it's about sharing of knowledge. You want some of this? Give me some of that, And like I said, it's a nice dance. I just know the steps instinctively. There are some people, well, all right, so I did want to say this. I know we're all over the place now.
But that's the point. It's a conversation. It flows where it goes.
So you work with a young man called Chris.
I do, yes.
And I wanted to thank you for having the good sense of bringing him on board, because you know this better than I. You don't hire somebody for their skills. You hire for personality.
Exactly.
Because skills you can teach.
Yes.
Personality you can't.
You cannot.
You cannot teach personality, but you can create with the personality, you can push with the personality, you can hope for the best with the personality. And Chris, I think Chris has an incredible career ahead of him, and you had the good, you saw it.
Yes.
You saw it, right?
I did, yes.
And I know this is somewhat uncomfortable between you and I think, and I hope not, but I hope that you realize that he is not competition for you. This is somebody that will be by your side doing the things you are doing. I love